Story 1. The screen is more sensitive to advertisements on Reddit than to posts. I'm not a programmer, and I don't even know if this is possible, but it seems like anything I accidentally open on Reddit is always an advertisement. Story 2. Apple made their wired headphones longer when they released AirPods so that the wires caught on more things, thus demonstrating the need for wireless headphones. Story 3. My dog's actual English vocabulary and literacy level is at least 10 times my estimate from 2 years ago. She's hiding it from me. That much is certain. Story 4. That our phones hear everything. I'll mention something random like, I kinda want a kayak. And boom, suddenly, I'm getting ads for paddles and life jackets. Coincidence? I think not. Story 5. A lot of people are in jail for crimes they did not commit while the actual culprits roam free. My suspicion is that the percentage of such cases is much higher than people think, especially in developing countries. Story 6. Any orange cat, or with any mix of orange, or even a single orange hair, bears genetics causing them to take drama to operatic heights. They seem to be dying of starvation 5 minutes after feeding time and have the demanding yowls to prove it. Apparently, a day is not complete without such a brush with death. Story 7. That my cousin killed her husband after their house burned down. The speed at which she immediately got with someone else and became pregnant afterward was suspicious as F*** to me at the time. Story 8. That the audio quality for the Kendrick Lamar halftime show broadcast was intentionally poorer than it should have been so Fox could get audiences at home to whine about the woke black guy. The recorded version I heard on Spotify yesterday completely changed my entire perspective on the show. It was phenomenal. Story 9. There is something that follows me from place to place that I've lived in. It hides my things. I've learned through the years to ask out loud if I can please have them back. Once I leave the room for a little while, when I go back in, I instantly find it, usually in a place I already looked before or just sitting in a very obvious place like on my bed. I don't mention this to anyone in real life because it makes me look crazy. Story 10. I don't even know if it's being hidden, but we're basically living a version of 1984. The elites have realized that they can use media and politics to build a society that the masses simply cannot reach. They use those engines to generate outrage so the masses fight each other over issues that don't matter like race or sexuality or whatever, while they extract what little wealth is left, leaving everyone reliant on them for survival. Everyone's monitored through their smartphones, and while people aren't arrested for thought crimes or speaking up against the government necessarily, media manipulation allows the shady activities to happen right under our noses, like insider trading and implementing tax loopholes to avoid paying their fair share, while we fight each other because the president fell up some stairs or Musk called Trump evil 10 years ago. The worst is that you can't really do anything against it either because they will ridicule the protests, focusing on a few people there for the wrong reasons, while ignoring real issues like the cost of living crisis. Meanwhile, all the ultra-wealthy people's net worths keep increasing. Granted, we do print more money, but for the most part, the economy is a system that can grow or shrink. Within that, why are the ultra-wealthy increasing their wealth faster than the larger economy grows? The answer is that for someone to grow faster, someone else must be losing that wealth, and which group of people have been complaining that everything is getting too expensive? The lower classes. Story 11. Tom Cruise does not do his own stunts. I do not believe that he is an amazing helicopter pilot, climber, or can fly a jet. He belongs to a cult which encourages lying. It is not that much of a stretch. Story 12. The television show Inside Job was canceled because one of the conspiracy theories was secretly true. Okay, suspect is a strong word, but the idea amuses me and I certainly cannot prove it. Story 13. That the American people didn't actually vote for Donald Trump in droves. I don't know, there's something weird about it to me, and I believe that's the hold Elon Musk has on Trump. But if I say it aloud, then I sound just like the 2020 stolen election people, crazy. Story 14. This technology was involved in the Washington, D.C. helicopter crash. It was due for rollout in 2025, but I cannot prove that it was installed on patrol aircraft 25. The National Transportation Safety Board would be able to, though. Story 15. A few things. 1. United States consular officers are under pressure from their superiors to deny a certain percentage of visa applications from countries with strained relationships, like Iran. Regardless of how many applicants meet the criteria to be granted a visa, proving they are not a terrorist, plan to visit, and then return to their country without intent to remain in the United States illegally, a certain percentage of applicants must be rejected. Otherwise, the consular officer risks losing their job. If we look at non-immigrant visa refusal rates by country, we find a slight correlation with gross domestic product per capita in a broader sense. However, if we break it down by income grouping, we find that among middle-income countries, refusal rates vary significantly. It is often correlated with that country's political relationship with the United States. Police in United States states that ban ticket and arrest quotas, such as California, still have informal quotas to fulfill. These quotas are not specified to the officers, but they will receive a negative performance evaluation if they are not writing as many tickets as the police agency, such as the California Highway Patrol, wants them to write. Israel threatens journalists in a Russian style to get them to retract true reporting on Israeli crimes. Corporate interests often block efforts to make infrastructure safer because they profit from people's suffering. More car accidents result in more business for collision repair shops, injury lawyers, car dealers, and car rental companies. The insurance companies are not hurt by this because they raise premiums across the board to compensate. Having driven in the United States, Canada, and Mexico, I find that road design is worst in Mexico and best in Canada, with the United States somewhat better than Mexico but still incorporating more dangerous designs compared to Canada. The other day, I was driving in San Francisco and almost got crushed by a semi because our lanes, coming from two separate highways merging into one, suddenly merge into a single lane with no warning or directive for one side to yield to the other. I have never seen such a design in any of the 3 Canadian provinces I've driven in. Story 16. American elections are bought by large corporations. They endorse those who boost their profit margins more. The election process was never about democracy or truth. Story 17. That we are all currently living a simulation. Everything is just so weird. It used to be so normal. No way to prove it, but I am pretty sure that is where we are. Story 18. Trump wants to make Canada the 51st state for clean aluminum, steel, and minerals. By Greenland for its wealth of resources and rare earth minerals due to volcanic activity. Give aid to Ukraine only with a $500 billion guarantee in rare mineral deposits. All things necessary to make Tesla batteries. He also wants the Panama Canal because ships get charged by tonnage to pass through. These materials and cars cost a lot of money to move. Story 19. Before plastics such as bags and packaging, like everything in the world now comes wrapped in some form of plastic or styrofoam, we had so much less cancer. Years ago, you got your fish and chips in paper, your potatoes, your cheeses and milk, lemonade, beer, and cola were all in glass bottles. Then they invented plastic and the world and its occupants are in trouble. Story 20. Pomegranates aren't real. I mean, in a sense they are. But I think they went extinct many hundreds or perhaps 1,000 years ago. But instead of admitting they went extinct, they were replaced by another item that we now call pomegranates. Story 21. That people simply do not want to be argued with. Sure, everyone will say, "Oh no, I like people who challenge me." But in actuality, everyone just wants to be agreed with and nothing more. Story 22. I'm pretty sure my godmother's daughter, who was living with us at the time, ate my Hot Pockets and then helped me look for them in the big freezer. I can't prove it, but her guilt was palpable. It was years ago and I'm still perturbed. Story 23. I suspect there is a plane of existence over the top of this one that we as humans just can't see or experience. Like if there are colors we can't see, waves doing their thing, who's to say there isn't another layer of something? I am nowhere close to being a scientist, and I'm definitely not going to ascend like religious experiences. It's just hard to believe that what we experience and measure is everything. Story 24. The increase in autism in the population is not just a tendency to overdiagnose, but the result of drug, chemical, and environmental pollution in the food supply consumed by the mother, especially growth hormones and veterinary drugs in livestock. Story 25. It is possible for humans to be biologically immortal. It's just insanely far out of the realm of our scientific knowledge. to a point where it will be generations upon generations before any breakthroughs are made. Story 26. I believe in magic. Not like for magic, but I've seen and experienced things that have been completely unexplainable. I know things intuitively about people I straight up shouldn't know. I've spoken to the dead in dreams that have told me things I later found out to be true, and I shouldn't have known it. I've seen things fly across the room and break. I've tested theories such as reading people's minds, and I was right. I don't know, maybe I'm a psychopath or something. Maybe I should be locked in a padded room forever. But honestly, it's just my theory. I'm not hurting anyone. I enjoy being spiritual. It's my life. I will believe whatever I want. Story 27. That the sudden increase in spot fires all over Southern California is somehow being executed by the insurance companies. No, I'm not a climate change denier. I understand that part, but bear with me. Cal Fire redraws the fire severity maps every year and includes all the previous year's fires that create a circumference around the fire approximately 20 to 25 miles in a circle around that fire. If you live within that new radius, you're in trouble. The insurance companies use those maps to justify cancellations. I'm just saying, with all the random spot fires popping up all over California like I've never seen before, the whole southern part of the state will soon be under a fire severity area and justified to either raise or cancel your insurance. I know I sound irrational, but with every random spot fire popping up this season, I kept thinking, damn, that's another insurance black hole. Story 28. I suspect that we are in a simulation and that when we die, it's just our actual body taking off the visor that induces the simulation. It's also why our concept of time is weird, like time flying, time crawling, and years seeming to go by fast. Story 29. Similar to the mattresses plan, I think rug stores are in some way a front. They never have customers in there, they have closing down sales just about every weekend, and every time I've entered one, the supposed sales assistant has had no interest in me at all. Even when I asked about something specific, it was greeted with a vague, "Oh, I think they're over there if we've got any," which, considering I was the only customer I've ever seen in there, I thought was a questionable response. Story 30. I am pretty sure the friend's daughter that my dad had stay with us for a year was actually my half-sister. 1, she looks more like him than I do, and 2, he was adamant that I do not have intimate relations with her, bearing in mind that my dad usually encouraged me to have intimate relations with as many women as I possibly could. Story 31. Processed sugars are responsible for the increase in psychological disorders in children, like autism and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. We are learning that the gut bacteria or microbiome in children with those disorders are markedly different than neurotypical children. The gut microbiome begins forming in infancy and is dramatically altered by foods and medications that the child takes. Story 32. Elon Musk has never actually had sex. All of his kids were created via in vitro fertilization, and I can't imagine a woman letting that man lay on them like a grunting pile of laundry while simultaneously thinking, let's make little versions of this. Story 33. The Big Bang Theory is wrong. Some scientists believe the math just doesn't add up. I suspect the universe originated like the forming of ice crystals in a lake. I also suspect that space is not a true vacuum but a type of liquid that science has yet to find a way to measure, not a vacuum merely at a lower pressure. Ice crystal-like structures form independently of each other from the base liquid and only begin to interact with each other once they obtain a certain amount of mass and gravity. After that, stars and planets are formed. Story 34. Back when the internet was fun, there was a site called the World Question Center. Maybe it still exists in some form. This very question was asked. The answer that stuck with me was something like, I believe people gain an evolutionary advantage by believing in things they cannot prove. Story 35. You know when you pump a specific dollar amount of gas? When it gets close to the dollar amount you chose, the amount of gas coming out of the hose slows, but the price keeps going up at the same speed as it did at the start. The gas stations could make a few extra bucks that way. Story 36. The free contact lens cases that come with the contact solution have gotten much larger in the last 30 years, encouraging you to use the solution up faster. Story 37. That the conspiracies like how billionaires and the World Economic Forum control the world are nonsense and that unintelligent people just want a bogeyman to blame for the problems they create by voting for things that destroy the world. Story 38. Cryptocurrency has nothing to do with actual money. It's fully tracked because cash is hard to track. It's also about decoding something. Imagine you are a shady organization that needs to break some cryptography. How do you get enough power and processing cycles to break it without anyone knowing? Release a fake currency that isn't backed by anything. You can then feed the cryptographic brute force attacks, releasing a coin when a goal is met. Keep doing it until you have broken the encryption. And since it's reported on the chain, you now have a key. Rinse and repeat. Bitcoin is a terrible currency. It can't be replenished, has a finite number, lots of coins already lost, and it constantly goes up in value but has no real-world backing. Transactions are announced. So yes, cryptocurrency is a scam.